From the Fans Talk Wrestling family at fanstalkwrestling.com, this is Fans Talk TNA. It's a weekly conversation about what's going on in the world of TNA and Impact Wrestling. My name is Garvin, and as always, we're joined by our friend and Team Beard brother, Nick. Say hello, Nick.
Fear the beard.
Now, this is episode 21 and covers the March 13th episode of TNA Impact Wrestling. Fans Talk TNA is a podcast series that is brought to you exclusively by the paid members of the FTW community, as well as out of our own pockets. Our goal for Patreon, if you haven't heard yet, we set up a Patreon account, but our goal for that, which we're reaching thanks to your help, is for all of our costs to be covered so that we can keep this podcast going without the fear of missing a bill. We aren't looking to live off of your support, but the podcast itself should be able to. To become a member, you can help keep this show funded by going to fanstalkwrestling.com, clicking the big green button, and pledging $1 a month or more. Quick reminder that we do read and respond to all of your comments, so if you're listening on demand, you can post those comments on YouTube, Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. YouTube usually is the place to be for continuing that conversation. And you can also send in topics to questions at FTW Podcast and anywhere else using the hashtag AskFTW. If you're listening live here on FTWLive.com, please put at the hashtag AskFTW at the beginning of your comment if it's something you want us to address during the show. We'll get to as many as we can. So let's get right into it, Nick. A lot of stuff happened last week. We can go ahead and just run down, but the overall theme this week was best friends who became foes. Pretty much every match was between former friends. So we got EY versus Bobby Roode, not MVP versus Drew Galloway, but we got that as well. Magnus versus Bram, Brooke versus Robbie E. Obviously, they were friends. They dated. And then also Rockstar Spud versus EC3. So, overall, that seemed to be the ongoing theme. I think that there are some criticisms on the internet about that TNA had pretty much every story meeting at climax at the same time, and it was all pretty much the same story in, as far as that real brief synopsis. Best friends turn foes, and they're fighting tonight. Do you think that's bad that that they all came to head at one point, and they're pretty much using that same that same idea?
I don't get that complaint. They did have the same general theme, but there are a lot of nuances that people are overlooking if that's their complaint. And I'm really not going to get into them, because if you've been watching, you ought to be able to spot the difference. I like the card as it happened. In fact, the only complaint I might have for that is that it wasn't a pay-per-view or a special event card. Because with that same general theme, sure. I don't know, that could be a one night only.
Oh, definitely. Well, not necessarily a one night only, but it was definitely a pay-per-view level card in that we had so many of these feuds coming to a point, like right here. So, I don't know. So let's just kind of run down each of the matches. EY versus Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode once again picked up a big win. This was last man standing match. My worry here is I don't know where EY goes, because basically once again, EY got the short end of the stick. And this was really your opening contest. So it almost feels like this is, and this is something that you and I talked about before, but this feels like this is like your end point for that. So if that's the case, we know Roode's going to go on to fight for the TNA World Championship at some point, but where does that leave EY?
I don't really know. And I don't want to say I don't care about what happens to EY, but I really do hope that this is the end of that feud. It's like you said, Roode had a pretty major win, and it seems like he's been getting all the major wins in these definitive matches. So I think EY could do a little time off to get some time away. Absence makes the heart grow fonder and all that, and set him up with something new. What that would be, I have no idea.
I could see that, but the problem is I don't know. I don't know if you guys listen to any other podcasts out there, but EY did a interview with Stone Cold. I want to say maybe a week or two ago, and was just very positive about the idea of like things are going in a new direction, and he's finally becoming, he's finally getting this chance to be a really just a big heel. You know, he's able to be that heel role that he hasn't been able to experience before. So, you know, they finally push him in that direction. He's very happy about it. He's talking it up. So I can't see them just like dropping it here, but I don't want to see EY versus Bobby Roode anymore. And I feel like with him losing, they're almost forcing themselves to, but EY gets lost for me. I can't see him going up against anyone else. Maybe Drew Galloway?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, the BDC wanted to use him as like their tame pit bull to go after that one thorn on their side.
Sure.
I don't know. I could see him maybe fighting Gunner to get back into the world title picture. I'm reaching, but
yeah, that's reaching. I don't know. So that's a concern, but it was a good match. As always, we've come to expect some really good things from EY versus Roode. This was a perfect example of how two guys like this, veterans that have worked well together before, can continue to work together. So yeah, overall, very good. Drew Galloway versus MVP. This was Drew Galloway's debut match. You know, it was all, it didn't last very long. We didn't really see a whole lot from Drew Galloway. But overall, what did you think? Do you think, you know, that his look and this continued story that they're pushing, with Drew is working?
I did enjoy the match that we got, and I think Galloway's been looking good in his time here. I don't know how long we can continue to have this one against all scenario where Galloway's fighting the BDC by himself. I have to imagine he's getting backup at some point, whether that be other guys he brings in or if somebody on the roster, say Austin Aries, steps up and joins him against the BDC.
Well, you got Roode. Roode can fit in that role too.
Yeah. I don't know. I see him focusing more on Lashley in the title. So unless the BDC goes after that again, I don't necessarily see Roode and Galloway crossing paths.
Sure. Well, so a quick follow up from last week, because last week I think I was pretty hard on Drew Galloway's debut, at least him on the mic, because, you know, I said that I didn't like that we were getting another former WWE guy talking about how awful WWE is in a cryptic way. That's something that we see pretty much from anyone who leaves the company and goes to, you know, wherever they go to. And I don't know. I still have somewhat negative feelings about it, but I do want to commend Drew in at least doing it differently. Like when Alberto Del Rio showed up on Lucha Underground or ROH, like it was very clear that he was talking about WWE. But with Drew this time, he really tried to personify what that negativity was about, and what that anger was about. So he put that on MVP and the Beatdown Clan, which I think at least injects him into TNA rather than him being, you know, on the outside looking in.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes him relevant to what's actually going on inside the company rather than him being just the standalone guy who, they got another ex-WWE talent and they're forcing him into something. I think this was a good way to actually insert him rather seamlessly, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And, you know, just seeing what he has done thus far, with MVP on the mic, at least, I think that it's a good sign of what's to come. We still haven't really seen what he can do in the ring yet because, you know, it's the same thing that we've seen from the Beatdown Clan for the last, ever since they got together. And that is, you know, this group mentality. We haven't really seen MVP go one-on-one against anyone, really, since he's arrived in TNA, but, more importantly, since he's joined up with the BDC. So, but definitely excited about what can come, especially because of how good these guys play off of each other on the mic. So moving on from that, Brooke versus Robbie E. If you guys are also listening to, another podcast that we released called Fans Talk Lucha, you know that a topic that has been pretty much, on every single week for the last 3 or 4 weeks is about gender equality and how, at least how Lucha Underground is pushing women versus men and vice versa, and how they're doing it and whether or not they're doing a good job. Nick, I know you really haven't been following Lucha Underground as closely as I have, but overall, do you feel that how TNA pushed Brooke versus Robbie E, that this is how you push a good intergender match?
If you're focusing on just the competitive aspect, how good a match can be, no, I don't think this is as good as what you see on Lucha Underground. I'm thinking specifically of Sexy Star and her matches. There's not really an emphasis on the fact that this is a man versus a woman. The emphasis is on the fact that these are two wrestlers. And Tess Marker, for better or worse, in my personal opinion, I think worse, she hasn't been treated as a wrestler in a long time. An actual wrestler. The last time I can think of was when she was feuding with Tara after they split up that team.
Right.
And while I did enjoy the segment very much, I thought it was pretty hilarious. Robbie E is great, as always. And I thought it was a good decision to have Tess Marker come out on top. Maybe spell an end to the nasty breakup angle and use her as a wrestler.
Yeah. Now, definitely, I'm with you. Overall, like, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is how you do an intergender match to really showcase both wrestlers, but I think it was still a good way to go about it, or at least introduce the topic. Because we did see some really good action from Brooke, and then also one of my complaints with Lucha Underground right now is that when it's a face guy, he doesn't really want to go up against the woman. Or even if it's like a neutral guy, he doesn't want to be in that match. But Robbie E was totally into it. He was totally into the idea, thought it was going to be easy. And I appreciate that side of it, that he's in this match to win, and he did go on the offensive for a little bit at least. So again, it was a comedic match. It's hard to get away from that, especially with these two characters. But at the same time, it wasn't treated as, well, Brooke is weaker, therefore can't necessarily hang with her opponent. It was more of like two evenly matched competitors, and I did appreciate that. I thought that at least was handled a lot better than where we've seen elsewhere.
Yeah, she didn't need no man to come save her from the bromance.
All right, so the main event, Rockstar Spud versus EC3. What were your thoughts about this?
This was pretty much perfect, I think. And I was kind of surprised at how well it turned out, especially when they opened up the night with the last man standing match, which I would have figured would have been the main event. And then they went on with Bram versus Magnus, which I thought, if the last man standing match isn't the main event, this has to be it. But they closed out with the hair versus hair match, and that was totally main event caliber match. I think that could have main evented a pay-per-view, to be honest. It was that good, especially with the acting on both men's parts. I just loved every bit of it, from Spud singing God Save the Queen to EC3.
Yeah.
The way he acted after beating Spud. You got that little hint of a face turn where he seemed remorseful over what he'd done to Spud and what he said he wasn't going to. And then he slaps Spud around and yells, "Not." That's just great.
Yeah. Overall, I'm in total agreement with you. I was surprised that this was the main event. We knew going in that we were going to get Bram versus Magnus, which is a big deal. Two really good wrestlers. Also, EY versus Rude. I thought that was going to be the main event overall. So, for this to be the main event, it's good. It's good that TNA is willing to push these guys. And overall, Rockstar Spud, when he came down and the entire crowd was like behind him singing God Save the Queen, I thought that was awesome as well. So, it was a very nice visual. And yeah, overall, I thought it was good. My only complaint about this match specifically was the use of the black and white footage. I just thought it was too inconsistent. It didn't really make sense why they were doing it. Like they were pushing that there's, user discretion advised kind of thing. And, that they didn't want to show how graphic it was, but it was pretty graphic what they did show. So, and it was like, you basically had like maybe 4 seconds that were black and white and the rest was fine. I just don't get why they went in that direction. It was almost like they did that for another reason, like there was a mistake in the footage or someone hit the black and white filter on the camera on accident or, something like that. It just didn't make sense to me. What did you think about that?
I get why they would do something like that because Discovery America is not a network like Spike where they get away with the more graphic, the more explicit stuff.
Sure.
It's a more family oriented channel.
Yeah, but we're talking maybe 6 seconds versus the 15-20 minute match.
Yeah, and I put that down to an experience. To my knowledge, Discovery America doesn't have other shows that would necessarily need that sort of filter.
Sure.
And TNA, I don't think really has experience needing to filter that kind of material. So I just put it down to inexperience and not really knowing what to do there.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt it was needed. I'm glad that they did it. I just don't understand why they didn't do it the entire time because it was pretty bloody. It was probably one of the most bloody matches that we've seen in TNA for a while.
Yeah, and I've never really understood how graying out blood makes it better because you can tell that's still blood, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a color thing. I mean, I don't know. Because we've seen that across the industry, especially WWE, where, when they replay those... Well, even when they show photographs, the photographs are usually black and white, just so it's not as gruesome looking.
Sure.
So, but still, I'm fine with them doing it. I just wish they did it the entire time. It was almost distracting.
Yeah.
All right. So next week, we've got Lashley versus Angle for the World Championship. We've also got the Wolves versus Revolution versus Bromans for the Tag Team Championships and an Ultimate X match. So overall, two really cool matches. Looking forward to both. Should note, the Revolution, at least in the graphic, is represented by Sonata and Manik. So James Storm's not there. Abyss is not there. It's just Sonata and Manik. So that's an interesting twist, and I hope that's true.
I can't see Abyss in an Ultimate X match.
Sure,
although
but
that'd be amazing to watch.
But it is strange that it's for the tag team championships, but James Storm is not involved. So, yeah, okay. So the match itself, the match stipulation itself, does kind of dictate who goes in, but still, it's still kind of strange that Sonata and Manik are now getting this push when they should have gotten this push a long time ago. Also, the Bromance is going to be represented by Jesse and DJ Z, so Robbie E is not involved either.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice because we've seen Robbie E in Ultimate X matches before. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so let's jump into wins and fails of the week. What was your favorite moment from Impact this week?
The two that really stuck out to me was first of all the aforementioned Not segment. Just that whole match segment, glorious. Especially when Spud starts mimicking all the legends of old, hulking up and shaking the ropes and the Austin 316 stunner. That was all pretty great. The second thing that stood out to me was we didn't really talk about much on the show, but the segment between Bram and Magnus, and especially how Mickie James was involved. And I've been really impressed with how she's been used in this feud. TNA could easily have made her very much a damsel in distress, just helpless against Bram, but no, she's gone toe-to-toe with Bram on a couple of different occasions. Slapping him, calling him a bitch. She's been pretty great, and Magnus and Bram haven't been slouches either. I hope this continues and improves.
Yeah, agreed. We did see a strange twist, at least how this match ended, or at least this segment ended. I thought was strange, but we could talk a little bit more about that in the post show tonight. But yeah, overall, I'm in agreement. I like what they're doing there. For me, my win of the week goes to basically another week of fantastic pay-per-view quality video packages. Every match felt so important. We were told that the product was going to, be unique and different. When TNA made the jump to Destination X or Destination Impact, what is it? Destination America. Jeez.
Yeah.
they were really pushing how they were going to do things differently, and this was going to be, unique and different. And while this isn't necessarily unique and different, because we have seen this type of quality video packages from WWE as far as to build their pay-per-views, especially on the pay-per-view itself, this was right up there for me. And I think if TNA continues to put the time and effort into telling these stories as greatly as they did in these video packages, I think that's a fantastic addition. So I hope that's something they continue doing. Fails. What was the worst part of this week for you?
I've got two fails as well. The first of all is Tessmacher's new entrance. It hasn't really jumped out to me before this past week, but this week really struck me as, again, like I said before, they don't treat her as an actual wrestler anymore. And that disappoints me, because when she was Knockouts champion and she was feuding with Tara, we saw that she'd improved quite a bit from the point when she was brought in. And I don't know why all of a sudden they decided to solely focus on her ass, which, don't get me wrong, it's pretty great, but she's also a pretty good wrestler. And I don't know why you keep her around if she's not going to wrestle. My second fail is the pipe attack on Galloway. That was pretty weak. Heads don't make that kind of ping noise.
Ping.
Yeah. I like the idea of low-key getting revenge.
Yeah.
But yeah, that really could have been done so much better.
Right. No, I'm in agreement. My fail is also going to go to low-key, or at least how things are going. I don't know. They finally evolved Low-Key's character, and while I think that's cool, like they finally started to push Low-Key in a different direction, because he was like this weird, deep-voiced warrior that didn't really speak, but when he did, he was like, a guy you listen to. Now he's a gangsta. I just wasn't ready for that transformation. It's like he just went from, this kind of like mysterious, deep-voiced guy to this higher-pitched, back alley guy. And I don't know. I just don't think it's the right move.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, final thoughts?
No, not really. Just looking forward to the rest of these UK tapings.
Next week, I believe, is the final of the UK tapings. Also, they're going to they went back to the Impact Zone, a new Impact Zone. I mean, it's the same. It's in Orlando, but I hear the set is completely different, which is pretty cool. And then there's also some news in June or May. I can't recall, but they're going to do some live shows. So I don't know what that's going to equate to, if that's going to mean that they're going to do some live shows for the TV, or if it's just live house shows or what, but expect some more news on that. But that's the end of the free portion of this episode. Nick and I are going to hop over to the FTW community only part in just a moment. To join us, you can go to fanstalktna.com, click the big green button, and pledge $3 a month or more. With your help, we're bringing you at least 3 episodes a week now with Fans Talk Lucha, Fans Talk Wrestling, Fans Talk Total Divas, as well as this series. Plus weekly bonus content like FTW Fallout, FTT Unlocked, and FTW Extras. Thanks to the help of the paid members of the FTW community, we're able to dedicate more time to this project, and we're having a lot of fun doing so hopefully you guys are too. And thanks to everyone listening on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you listen through a service that lets you leave ratings and reviews, please do so. And let people know that this is the best fan-run podcast series in the business, and that they should be listening to. Have a good week, everybody, and enjoy this week's Impact. See ya.